You're welcome.
All right. Well, welcome, my friend. Welcome to Side Piece. I just got done listening to your song, Griever, and it was fantastic. I loved it. I listened to a lot of music like that, and it fit. If it's out on Spotify, I'm putting that on my playlist. I said that in the video.
Nothing,
Um,
nothing's been released yet. It's the way we record it is kind of front to back, so it's meant to be put out on tape. But before
ooh,
I go to
very
Spotify,
cool.
I gotta go through and cut everything. And
Yeah, no worries, no worries, dude. That's fantastic, though. All right, well, so go ahead and introduce yourself. What's your name? What band are you in?
all right, my name's Nick Nexus. I play in the band Phryx, Phryx. Um, I play guitar, bass. I compose all the noise and the ambience. Um, and I program the drums until we get a drummer.
Very cool.
And but it's basically my brainchild. So both as
Fantastic.
first as I am.
Well, awesome. So, after listening to your song, I do have a couple questions, just to like understand it better.
All right.
So first of all, what do you like to call that genre? What is your thoughts about that genre of music specifically?
It's pretty much I just call it death sludge because it's the only accurate description they can come up with. I come from a crust punk grindcore death metal background, but I've always had like one foot firmly planted in sludge and doom.
Yes, sir.
So I always felt like when it comes to things like doom and sludge, if it's done the right way, um, it can induce altered states of consciousness without actually using things, just because of the particular vibrational frequencies of all the music.
Mm-hmm.
So as someone with ADHD, it's kind of a you think someone with ADHD would be more into grind, but uh, I don't know. But
Well, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, uh, sorry, that's the ADHD moment.
No,
It's
for
already
real.
gone.
No, honestly, when it comes to ADHD, for me, especially, it's like I like, I mean, music in general helps so much with focus and being able to ground yourself for
Right.
some reason, but especially when it comes to metal. And I'm a big either doom or deathcore enjoyer. Like that's kind of the main genres that I'm into.
Uh,
And there's something that I love that it just makes me feel calm listening to stuff that is slow, heavy, and just this like, I don't know. I think it just kind of helps your brain focus on something. It's kind of like endurance training almost, but it feels really good for your brain and
yeah, I mean,
stuff.
it could be endurance training. In some, you can see it as, I mean, I guess you can see it as endurance training in some cases. Um, I mean, there's a lot of studies that kind of uh, focus around the actual pitch and frequency of certain um, notes.
Hmm.
So around, I think it's between 300 and 600 hertz is when the brain kind of evens itself out,
Wow.
but binaural in a way.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. So, what is well, how did you start the project, Fricks? How did you go about starting that? Were you the original starter of the band, or?
Um, Frix is kind of started like on a whim. I was sitting here in my cave, and I kind of just I got bored. I went out to Guitar Center. I'm like, well, I haven't played a seventh string in a while, so I picked up this cheap seventh string, and I decided to see how far I can actually push the first of all the something that the how cheaply this seventh string is built, and I wanted to see how far sonically I can push it. And at the time, I was really getting into more into dark ambient and industrial and noise and things like that. You know, as most aging grind dudes do. um, and I just started playing around with stuff. I wanted to make it the most um, uncomfortable but surreal experience that you could listen to. Um, and like I've mentioned it in our conversations before, Phryx is sort of supposed to be a multi-platform experience where
Mm.
Phryx, the band, as a traditional band, would never perform live. If you ever go see Phryx, it's going to be two dudes playing noise, drone, and dark ambience.
Mm.
Um, the physical aspect of the idea of Phryx manifests in um, how we present ourselves, our packaging, all those weird videos that we've been posting. The the concept of it is it Frex will always be me and my vocalist Varna, but there would be other elements brought into it slowly over time.
Wow. That is so cool. I love projects that are more than just a project. It's got a story and it's got a life of its own, you know? That's
Yeah,
why that's why people are so in love with like Sleep Token, for example. You know, how they kind of just blew up. Like not only their like, you know, their music is solid, but it's this mysteriousness and story that people can get behind. You know, when they came out with like and it's like worship, people are like what what the hell are they talking about? What do you mean worship? And then they go into the lore. You know, lore is really important, and it seems like you have that part down. You know, and especially with the multi-platform, you're appealing to a wider audience that then can get into other facets of your experience. I'll call it an experience, you know, and
yeah.
that's really neat. That takes a lot. It takes a lot of work and a lot of thinking and a lot of structuring and building, and that's impressive.
Thank you. And
Um,
I mean, I'm a reader, and I
mhm.
don't know if you're able to see the amount of books behind me, but this is like just a small portion of it. Um,
Wow.
I have a library off my right side, just filled with things. I find myself looking at a lot of surrealist artists like Zadoslav Pikinski and Peter Grick, and
Mm.
everyone knows H.R. Geiger. Um,
Hmm.
and I always kind of want to imagine a soundscape to that. So the particular the particular lore of Phryx is kind of rooted in not necessarily a concept, not necessarily world building. It's more rooted in uh, I guess I would say abstract ideology, and to the fact where you can you can look at a surrealist piece and listen to Phryx and
Mhm.
let the two kind of let your senses kind of speak to each other and devise
Wow.
what's actually happening in your headspace. But
Wow.
lyrically, Phryx has always been loosely centered around the aversion to Abrahamic ideology, all of it.
Mm.
Um, the While keeping its foot wet in Abrahamic ideology to a degree. Um, for example, I don't necessarily agree with Orthodox Christianity, um, all of that. But um, as someone that um, studies Eastern philosophy pretty heavily, I find the Gnostic ideology of um, the physical being incredibly temporary and not
Mm.
necessarily mattering. This shell is not us. It's
Yeah.
this is a vehicle, and the spirit is the driver.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
all things physical are what the Hindus call Maya, illusion, and
Mm.
that really it kind of appeals to me because it kind of follows the way I've sort of charted out my own life in recent years, where I'm not super interested in um, you know stacking large sums of money because it's meaningless notes of an empire of nothing. Um,
Exactly.
and the I like to look at the association between um, religion, pleasure, and pain,
Hmm.
which is which is kind of where the title of our demo comes from, Flesh Garden. It's a garden of flesh, which is actually a concept of kind of a twisted idea of the Garden of Eden, and it's
Hmm.
also a really cool quote from. It's also taken from Hellraiser, which I'm a fan of.
Hell yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, the Garden of Eden in Christianity, the Garden of Eden stopped being the Garden of like you had the Garden of Eden, which was like where God walked among men and humans. But then when they separated themselves, they were kicked out, and then the world kind of became the Garden of Flesh. They kind of
Yeah,
separated themselves from God, that higher being in a sense. So they kind of lost that divine part of them. And then now they're trapped inside this flesh. They can't walk among the spirit anymore. It's kind of always a struggle to have your spirit not be overtaken constantly by the desires and the carnal pleasures of the flesh. So
right.
that's really, really cool.
Yeah,
Um, so when it came to writing this song, a lot of the stuff that I really loved about it, and then feel free to elaborate on some of the points that I make here. I loved the choral aspect of it, the voices, especially in the beginning, in the middle of the song, those like very high female voices. Fantastic. Love that. The visuals were really, really great. I loved how like I didn't know what picture was coming next, and they all, now that you say it, I was like, what is that? And it's like it is very surreal, very surreal. Um, and I really liked the how the vocals. I mentioned this, how the vocals stay in this lower range while it allows the higher choir voices to kind of stay up here. So there's a really good dynamic
yeah,
blend. So, what is the song about? Obviously, even listening to metal for the past 6 years, I still like. I think I caught one or two words, but
yeah. Well, I mean, Toilet Monster vocals are going to be Toilet Monster vocals, whether you,
exactly.
no matter which way you flip the coin. Like you can listen to, I I love Primitive Man, if that's
Hmm.
not obvious. Um, and I had no idea what Ethan was saying for the longest time until I actually got a copy of Scorn and I looked at the lyrics and I'm like, oh, that's what he's saying. I thought he was just yelling.
Hmm.
But in this the world of extreme music, you could write incredibly long bits of dialogue that just gurgle, and
Yep.
people will be like, yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
everything he said.
Yep.
Um, so the lyrics are actually written by Vedna, and it's an examination of just literally what the song says, grief. And it's not so much grief over a lost love; it's a grief over the loss of sense of self. One of the we we make references to Jacob's ladder um, being thrown off of it, um,
Hmm.
and in other parts of the song we make references to throwing yourself head first through pane glass, and
Hmm.
then sprinkled in between, like we say, every day is a new reason to grieve, and that could be personal reasons, outside reasons, socio-political reasons. But I don't really concern myself with such things man-made as politics. I think
Yeah.
it
And that. Yeah.
it's anti. it's antithetical to the human experience.
Mm-hmm.
Just enjoy,
Yeah.
enjoy the ride.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's so funny that man can accept a leader that's another human. No human is better than another human, and then we end up putting people into places where they're like, oh, they're gonna fix it. It's like, no, they're just the same as you. Like if you if don't think that another person, like, and this was, I remember back in 20, probably 2016, 20, when the election was going on, not to get political, but I had friends back where I lived in upstate New York. It was a very farm centered town. And I had a couple friends who had like the Trump flags up. And it was just like, I'm looking at them and I'm like, you're treating this man like he's never going to let you down. And every human on earth is going to, at some point in their life, let another person down. And you think that he's not going to, you're treating him like a god. And if you believe in any kind of creator or spirit or universe, you know, at the end of the day, they have the good, or if you believe in the universe or whatever, or God, at the end of the day, most celestial beings that humans will believe in have their good in mind at the end of the day. Versus humans, I wouldn't trust a single human who's not like my family, or I wouldn't even, I wouldn't even count out that, there could be like a slip of mental sanity or something where someone, not many people have your best interest in mind. It's usually very self-centered. And even if they do have your best interest in mind, it's usually only because it's in their best interest, you know? And
Right.
so socio-political stuff, that's all just, it's created, it's their own problem, it's humans' own problem. And I choose not to interact with it as much as humanly possible, just because what what good is it going to do for me to get upset about something that is happening outside of my control when I can try to make my life and the people that I know and the people that I love as good and as happy as possible, under the
Right. Yeah.
circumstances. But so I like that aspect of, it's about grief, but not the grief over losing someone. It's kind of the grief over losing your sense of self. That's really, really a good. It's a good thing because I don't hear a lot of songs about that. Kind of, you hear songs every day about losing someone, whether it's Taylor Swift or if it's whatever it is. One of my favorite songs is "What I Would Give" by Angel Maker. They're a Canadian deathcore band, and that's fantastic. And it's about losing someone, but I haven't heard a lot of songs about losing your sense of self, like your sense of being, like who am I as a person. And I just lost that. And every day I wake up and because to me, that would feel like waking up every day not knowing who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in, where you're going, and you just have just this sense of nothing when you wake up. And that's something a lot of people deal with, and I don't think is talked about enough, frankly.
Yes. And it's uh, a lot of it can become spiraling, um,
Hmm.
and that's something that people who like people with depression and anxiety disorders, people with ADHD, um, go through that as well.
Hmm.
Because I don't think a lot of people understand that ADHD, the chemical imbalance that creates ADHD, is the same chemical imbalance that creates depression.
Hmm.
It's the exact same thing. Um, so those two things go hand in hand. So when it's not kept in check, when it's not watched out for, if you don't have a strong central support, you will spiral. And
Yeah.
it's you know as prior to doing going to therapy, getting a psych, being put on medication. Every day felt like I was falling off of a 60-story building
Yeah.
every 30 seconds.
Wow.
And with time that each time that drop came, it's like, oh, there goes another piece of me. There goes another piece of me.
Mm.
there goes another piece of me. And
Wow.
yeah, and um, it took me a while to crawl back out of that because it's a place I never want to be again. But that's also in a way where this, my extreme aversion to societal norms and um, offshoots of Abrahamic religion come from.
Mm-hmm.
I would talk to some of my friends who I usually go to for help, and they would be like, "Well, man, let me tell you about a guy named Jesus," and I'm like, "That's not helping me right now."
Yeah.
And I'll admit that state of my mental state then drove a lot of people I knew away from me, and it ruined, absolutely ruined and destroyed certain relationships I worked my ass off to this point to fix, and I'm still fixing.
Mm-hmm.
And all these things are reasons for intense grief. I just hide it very well
Yeah.
through you know obviously medication and music.
Yeah. Yeah. Growing up, um, growing up in a very, very Christian, non-denominational Christian centered town where I was. And I'm traditional Catholic, and um growing up in that, there was a lot of times I honestly felt disgusted to even have the name of Christian applied to me, because I would look at some of the people around me and they would just be so frivolous with talking to people about Jesus. And it's like, if you're not in the right state of mind, and even today, like even still today, when I walk down the street and somebody tries to hand me a Bible, like, "Hey, have you ever heard of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?" I'm like, "Get away from me. Like, I do not want to be associated with you at all." Like, you
Right.
are, like, it's they people fail to, and a lot of those people, I would venture to say, not all of them, but a lot of them ignore their mental and physical states to be able to just accept Jesus, and then they think that's going to fix them, and a lot of them are not happy people. A
Oh
lot of them
no.
are not happy. You have to be just like in a relationship, because being believing in something is a relationship. When you get in a relationship, you believe in the other person, and if you're not in the right mental or physical state, you can't be in a relationship with a human, let alone a creator of the universe, you know
Yeah.
and so I completely, like, 100% see where you're coming from with that, where people would be like, "Have you heard of her?" And I know they mean well, but it's like, can you talk to me like a normal human being right now? Like, I need
Yeah.
to have a connection with a human. I need to feel something real right now, and then I can have faith in something once I'm healed, maybe. Not
Right.
like I'm in this pit of just, I feel like no sense of self, and somehow believing in something that I can't physically touch or hear or see right now is not going to help, you know?
Yeah.
And
Just give me a fucking hug.
yeah, no, exactly. And yeah, that's I think but I think that's my favorite thing about metal in general, is the community surrounding metal is one of the most accepting, loving, and safe communities I have ever seen in my life. I've ever seen in my life. The awareness for especially men's mental health, is more than any other genre of music. The awareness for, and the physicality of metal too really helps too. Because you get in a mosh pit, if you get knocked over, some dude picks you up, give him a hug, you're like, "Thanks, man." And then you get back in there. There's a lot of physical contact that really helps guys, especially. And I'm sure women too. I don't know many people personally, many girls personally, that are into the kind of music that I'm into. But
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because so one of my jobs is I'm a sound guy at Supply and Demand here in Long Beach,
oh,
or
that's so cool.
across the way in Long Beach, and we've had Sheer Terror, we've had Madball, we've had Fury of Five, we've had E Town Concrete,
Mm,
um, We've had Section Hate. Uh, all of the LA hardcore scene, has played at our venue, and it's interesting to see the crowd because at metal shows it's a dominantly male pit of
Yeah.
cavemen running in circles.
Yep.
On the other hand, you have hardcore where you have cavemen flailing wildly, and occasionally a woman will emerge from the audience and just knock somebody out.
Hell yeah.
I've only ever
Hell
seen
yeah.
that at hardcore shows. Some maybe at grinded punk shows, but like at hardcore
Mm.
shows, it's they're dangerous.
Yeah. No, and actually, we're doing a segment on Side Piece this coming week called "Show Us Your Pepper Spray," and it's getting all the females in the punk and metal scenes to just film a 10-second video, just saying, "Here's my pepper spray," and then they pull out, whether it's pepper spray, a knife, a taser, whatever it is for their self defense, and hey, dude, I've met some dangerous ladies, and I'm like, hell yeah, that's the world needs more dangerous ladies.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I definitely love just the inclusivity and the love through violence in a sense that metal brings, that really
yeah.
no other genre or religion can really offer,
Mhm.
because it's violence in the sense that we're all here to get our feelings out, we're all here to get our emotions out, we're here, but we're here together, and it's all not only consensual, but we all welcome it. We welcome this feeling of expulsion of your emotions, whatever the hardships you're going through, the depression you're feeling, the anger you've been feeling, the sadness you've been feeling. That vocalist and that band is up on stage and they are singing or screaming, playing exactly what you're feeling in your heart. And through them doing it and you getting in that pit, you crossing your arms in the back and listening to it, just feeling it, whatever it is, you are really, really, it's so therapeutic, genuinely.
Yeah,
If I was a therapist, all I'd do is just assign I would be like, let's talk about your problems. All right. I'm going to, prescription for 2 metal shows a week. Get in the pit at least once. All right. You know,
if you get a
um,
black eye, it's okay.
exactly. Character building. No.
Yeah,
So yeah, and good for you for being a part of that and recognizing that and helping to spread that kind of message, especially with your music. Um, do you guys have any releases on the horizon?
on the horizon. So, because that's the great thing about, for all intents and purposes, being a one man, show. I constantly working on things like
Yep.
not like nonstop. It took me um 2 months to put together Flesh Garden.
Mm.
And then when once I brought Verona into the into the fold, I'm like, I just want you to yell at a microphone and write lyrics. And he goes,
Yeah.
okay, all right, cool. I'm gonna go work on the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so literally,
Nice.
I'm constantly writing music because I my the centerpiece of my room is my mix desk, and
Yes. Yeah.
to my right I have a Thunder P bass, a Warwick 5 string, an Ibanez 5 string, a 1985 Ibanez Iceman, and 1984
Woo!
Hondo that I modified.
The
Um,
Iceman. I want a 7 string Ibanez Iceman, like the lead guitarist from Knocked Loose, so bad.
oh yeah,
And
the chunky.
ooh, chunky, dude. They are. Oh, I just bought an Agile 7 string, and that's been my baby. But well, very cool. So do you wanna have any whoop, before we end the interview here, do you have any plugs you want to do? Anything you want to say to the audience? Final words?
Plugs. Okay. So I am an like I said before, I'm a recording audio engineer. Um, I am the sole owner and operator of Ogre Mound LLC, Ogre Mound Audio LLC, and if anyone wants to have have me come to their rehearsal spot, record a demo for them, um, record their live show with multi tracks, I can do that. And as an added bonus, if you've if anybody watches this and you leave a comment, I will track you down and I'll give you a pro bono thing.
Hey, there you go. Nice, very cool. And we could even put that up on our story too. That hey, this guy's an audio engineer. He's looking for people to record, first time free or something like that. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, I mean,
Perfect.
I'm a merciful god.
Heck yes. Um, it's lead by fear and what is it? Everybody who what's the quote? Doggone it. But basically, everybody who leads by fear ends up getting revolted against. Everybody who leads by love, their followers will follow them until they die. Something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Unless you're in any way, shape, or form involved in that sarin gas attack that happened in Japan back in the '90s, then yeah.
true. And then anything people should be looking out for on the like anything coming up soon? I mean, obviously we'll share the link to this YouTube video, but are there any
Right.
other songs you would say, "Hey, this is a great representation of who I am as an artist. You should go listen to this." Anything like that?
Yeah. So Flesh Garden is almost ready to be put out. Um, the I have about 3 more vocal tracks I have to do. I'm going to go to a studio. I'm going to go to Machine House Studio in Santa Ana, and myself and John are going to add a few more noise layers to it.
Mm,
Um, but also because I'm a merciful God, if you want to hear if you want to hear the demo completely raw, no vocals, you can message me and I will share with you the entirety of Flesh Garden front to back.
nice.
But if I find it, and I was going to say if I find it on SoulSeek, I'll kill you. But feel free to put it up on SoulSeek,
Fantastic. All
Kazaa,
right.
whatever it is you kids use these days.
Well, Nexus, thank you so much for having us react to the song and then coming on to this interview. It's been fantastic. If you guys play a show, let Side Piece know. We'll post it up onto our story when Flesh Garden comes out. We'll also post that up. Thank you so much. This has been an amazing, amazing interview. I appreciate
Absolutely,
it so much.
no
All
problem.
right, you have a wonderful day, my friend.
All right, you too.